fully live.
Be careful what you say.
We've just been video live. Welcome, folks, to our second of the year coffee talk. This one is dance focused. So you should be a dance parent, not VA. That's Monday.
Well, I don't know about should. VA parents may want to learn about dance.
That's true. You're a welcome observer.
I think most are. Most of them
But
are.
we asked for,
Except for me.
invited dance parents because some of those, you have some concerns that are specific to your child and your program. And Dean Susan Jaffe and Associate Dean Brenda Daniels graciously agreed to be here too. Brock and I are here. Last spring when we did the inaugural dance coffee talk, we were getting some questions about college admissions, both on the conservatory side, but also more standard liberal arts side. So in addition to hosting this with Jennifer Snow White as the chair of the PSO, we're here to answer those questions if they come up, and we can take any manner of question too. So.
I actually thought that you guys were here to serve coffee. If anybody raises a hand, Brock or Dean Farrell will be over with a cup of coffee. You got two hands means cream. Everybody, please help yourselves to the homemade pumpkin bread and pecans, because I promise you that the people out there, they're all eating and they're eating sloppily. You can't see them, so don't be afraid of them. Right. And welcome. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you. So I don't know who wants to start with questions. I know we do have some questions coming up on email that actually might answer some of your questions already. So maybe how many was it just that one?
Yes, for now. Yes.
Okay. So three questions.
Three.
Okay, so audition standards for performances including Nutcracker and Raymonda. So what happens is that, in fact, next week, we start the audition process for the Nutcracker. And it probably takes the faculty a good month to start to figure out where people are, what casts, how the casts break up. Because, for example, if you're a female and there are two casts, you have to have the same length torso. I mean, it's very involved because of costume shop, et cetera. So it takes a while for them to sort of sort through it. It's, over 70 dancers in the Nutcracker. And most of the time it's two casts. Sometimes it's two casts and a half or a quarter or something like that. And then sometimes they have students who they feel like could possibly make it, but they want to continue to keep rehearsing them. So to see if they can gain the strength to be in whatever part that they're thinking of right then. So sometimes that takes a little bit longer as well. Usually casting is pretty cleared up just before Thanksgiving, although I think the kids sort of already kind of have a clue as to who's being cast. And then, but pretty early on, probably after the first 2 weeks, they will, is it 2 weeks, Brenda, when we go into rep, when we know that students who are not involved in the Nutcracker, when exactly do they go into rep?
Well, the initial, Susan's right, the initial auditions are next week, and every ballet student is looked at in every level, because there's many roles in Nutcracker for all levels of ability. So students are looked at in actual audition scenario next week. And then I would say maybe another week or two after that, the faculty who are working on Nutcracker determine who will be in the Nutcracker, and then that is set. Those students who are not cast in Nutcracker go into their repertory classes where they are learning a piece of classical dance that they will perform in December at our Dance in DeMille that's right at the end of the semester, at the end of intensive arts. So those who are in the Nutcracker should know what actual performances they're doing. That's what takes a long time to determine, is which student is doing which performance. that is extremely complicated. And they got that up a week before Thanksgiving last year to give the parents a chance to buy the tickets to the specific shows. It's our major fundraiser of the year, so of course you could buy a ticket to every show. and then you would know you would see your student.
Yeah. So for Raymonda, for example, usually, oftentimes it's cast ahead of time because we pretty much know, like, for example, I don't know if this is a male or a female student that that Barbara is asking about. But usually the females are pretty much cast or put in the room for auditions before the actual audition, because we already know, I go in every Wednesday and I teach the variations. So pretty much we know the strength of them right away. And then once we actually get into the audition, sometimes somebody will be put into rep and not into Raymonda because we think they'd be better off in rep working on maybe something even more challenging than standing, in the core or whatever. Sometimes it just depends. Should that student actually be understudy, or would they be better off actually dancing every day doing their rep piece? So we're really trying to figure out what is the best thing for that student. I know the male variation will be taught all throughout this semester and into next semester, couple male variations to see who will be strong enough to be in the male. The male's part is sincerely difficult. And so you have to actually be able to know how to do a double tour, which is a double revolution in the air and actually land on 2 feet, which is not easy. So that's pretty much how we, for the bigger, and the reason why we'd sort of precast Raymonda again has to do with our costume shop, because Raymonda has, I believe, 10 couples, 11 couples. And if you're going to do 2 casts, then you have to figure out this torso next to that torso, and sometimes this place is going to do a solo, but tomorrow night this place is going to do that same solo, and it's very complicated. And I would have to say most of that really does have to do with costume shop, because they have very little time to actually fit the costumes, and what they work is miracles, actually. Because for example, those Raymonda costumes are quite old. Well, everybody gets larger and larger every year. Like the whole population gets taller and taller. So sometimes you go into you go to the costume shop and you see something that was built 20 years ago and it's this big, and you think, how are we gonna get somebody this big into this big? And they figure it out. So it's quite a miracle what they do, which is why we try as much as we can to just take as much sort of stress off that shop as possible. So that's why oftentimes things get cast ahead of time.
But not always. Can I jump in?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also with contemporary, if there's any contemporary parents here, we like to strike a balance between having auditions where a guest will not be influenced by anything we think about the student, but will look at the students and make their picks. It's good experience for the students to do auditions because they're going to have to do auditions when they leave the school. So we try to do a nice blend of some just we call it a cold audition, where they're just looked at by the stage, and then there are scenarios where the faculty know the students so well. And if it's a faculty who's choreographing, I don't need to do an audition because I know the students so well, so I just cast my piece. But people coming in from the outside, we often like to have them just take a look at all the students so they can pick the students that they want for their piece. And it's always nice when they pick people that maybe we wouldn't have picked for them. And it gives the students a real opportunity to be seen. So we try, as the course of the year goes along, we try to do a number of different scenarios for the audition process for all the pieces to make it the most fair to the most students.
It's always wonderful when a choreographer chooses somebody to think, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have thought of that. And then that student just blossoms. So it's really wonderful. Any other questions about that? Okay.
When you were talking about just now the contemporary piece too, or auditioning for contemporary, is that for the performance in February?
The winter dance and the spring dance. In the fall, our new students, our brand new students are in a repertory class. We want them to have a foundational experience where they learn a classical piece of modern dance. For the past few years, it's been a piece by Jose Limon, which our faculty member Sean Sullivan works with our new contemporary students on. But once they get into their second or third or fourth year, then they're free to audition for the winter dance and spring dance concerts.
Don't audition for those their first year.
In their first year, yes, just the fall semester, just fall. They're in repertory, yes.
Is it too early? The question is it too early to ask if there's a summer intensive planned? Yes, there is a summer intensive planned. And if so, does my child have to audition? If your child is in our school, they do not have to audition. They just have to let us know quite ahead of time, so that we don't fill that slot, that they want to take part in the summer intensive, and we will keep a spot for them. And yes, it's going to be a beautiful summer intensive. So those were the only questions on this email. But this probably has sparked some other questions from you all. So
Would you just tell me a little bit about the dance department this year, a number of students in ballet and contemporary, new faculty, your just thoughts, vision, changes?
I knew somebody was going to ask that question. And so Corey had made a little cheat sheet for me about how many students, there's Corey McLean.
Very good.
And so I just took a photograph of that
Perfect.
just before we came.
Teamwork.
So we have 101 high school students. 44 of them are out of state. 57 of them are in state. 70 of them are ballet majors and 31 are contemporary majors. So that's for our high school. Would you be interested in undergrad?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Undergrad is 131. 90 are out of state. 41 are in state. 49 are ballet majors. And 82 are contemporaries. So we have a total of 232 students, 134 are out of state, and 98 are in state. 119 in total are ballet, and 113 in total are contemporary. And actually, Brenda pointed out just a couple weeks ago that our contemporary division really grew because we've always been a little bit more ballet heavy, because in the high school there's usually more ballet students just because contemporary doesn't start until 10th grade. But we have a lot more contemporary students this year, and do you want to speak to that at
And in
all?
fact, since we ran these numbers, 3 students have switched from ballet to contemporary. So now it's even closer proportion ballet and contemporary. And I just think that it's a testament to the strength of our contemporary program, where we have amazing faculty, performance opportunities, and they're really, for undergraduate, they have a lot of choices, but I think for high school, it's a unique school. There's just not that many high school programs where you can study contemporary dance on this professional level. So our high school numbers have particularly grown in contemporary.
2 questions.
Oh, new faculty, do you want to?
Oh, yes, new faculty. We have a new faculty, Angelina Sansoni. She was a principal dancer at Kansas City Ballet, And she auditioned for us last spring, and we all thought that she was very talented as a teacher. I also thought she was very talented as a ballet master, somebody who could actually coach professionals. And so she won my heart when I sat her down and I said, but you could be a ballet master somewhere. And why would you want to come and teach 14-year-olds when you could be working with professionals? And she said, I see so many professionals or young professionals with so many holes in their technique. And what I want to do is fix that. And I was like, sign at the dotted line. And so she's a lovely presence. She is beautiful. She's like a tall string bean with these crystal blue eyes. Kids just fell madly in love with her. And I think she's going to be a wonderful addition to the faculty. I also sent her to American Ballet Theater National Training Curriculum to have her trained in levels. Now it's all the way up to level 7 in partnering, but she's now been trained between primary through level 5. So, and we're probably level 5, level 6, and at the top of our levels anyway, because the level 7 at ABT is more in their studio company pre-professional level. So she is solidly trained. It took her something almost like 20 days to be trained, and it's very meaty amount of information. So she's integrated into the faculty quite beautifully already. So nice. Yeah.
My daughter brought her up yesterday and said she just loves her. That she's been giving them a lot of tips in class, things like how to fix your shoes because you can't find the perfect shoe for your foot. And she's worked extensively apparently with them in class individually, and she just loves the extra like behind the scenes things that she's been telling them as well. So I thought she happened to volunteer that, so
Oh, that's
I'd pass it
wonderful.
along.
Good. Is there a list anywhere, perhaps on the website, that reflects where UNCSA alumni are currently dancing professionally? This can be a good recruiting tool for UNCSA Dance, as many dancers are curious as to where graduates end up getting jobs. I have an internal list of the last few years. I did send that up to the web people. Whether or not it actually gets on the web is not my decision. But also we have Casey, who is very she's on our faculty, is so connected with our alums. Does she have a much larger list of? Yeah.
There is an email that comes out. I can't remember who it's from, but just what are they doing now? And it's for all the schools, but it does come out like every couple weeks or something.
Oh, every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do
And
we,
like what they're coming up. I know, I'll look. I'll find it and we can
Is it
post
a
it. My mom found
Is
it.
it a newsletter? Because we have a School of Dance newsletter, that I just proofed yesterday.
Well, it's
But
kind of like what's coming up. So if there's, one of the actors doing a Broadway play, it'll say that or, that kind of stuff.
yeah,
I think
ours
that's
will be
what's
coming out in a week or two, or actually they said Friday, because I just approved it yesterday. So it should, it's a School of Dance newsletter, basically, with 3 stories of alumni, and one's on Blaine Hoven, who's now soloist at American Ballet Theater, and who else was there? One of our students, Lauren Smith? Lauren Smith, who took our professional studies program this past summer, and she was talking about her life as a choreographer, dancer, performer, and there was one other, I can't remember. But so it talks about that. There are some alumni stories in there as well, but I don't know if there's like a whole list. That would be awesome. And I do agree, it would be a fantastic recruiting tool. Because this past year, I didn't actually count, but the list was quite large of who got traineeships, apprenticeships, second company jobs, company contracts. It was quite, I was like, wow.
Doing something right.
We're doing something right. And what happens too, like in our contemporary division is oftentimes they go off and then 2-3 years later we'll hear, oh, I'm in the second company because it's a different, and do you want to speak to that, Brenda? It's a kind of a different model of how they get jobs.
Contemporary choreographers tend to want older dancers. It would be very unusual for a student fresh out of college to get a job in a contemporary company. The choreographers want to work with dancers for a while and see that they're really interested, and they come to their summer intensive, and a relationship has to be built. So often our students will start to work with somebody when they leave school, maybe somebody they met here as a guest. That's why we try to bring in lots of guests to make these connections for our students. And then maybe a few years down the road, we'll hear back, oh, I'm in so-and-so's company, or they go to Europe and they get a job there, or they start their own company, or any number of paths. But it is a little bit different. It tends to skew a little bit older for the contemporary students before they get that company job.
And actually last spring, wasn't it just last spring, Savannah Spratt told us that she was in the Limon company?
Mhm.
So, and she graduated the year before last. So, right? The year before
Yeah.
last. So that was actually kind of quick for a contemporary dancer. So, yeah, I wish I had brought that list with me. I should think about that next year.
Could you go through the levels that someone who is auditioning, if you're a senior and you're thinking about auditioning for companies, what are the levels that they could, of ballet companies, what they might expect to experience as far as being given an offer, what might be a good offer versus a bad offer? How do you weigh those options? And including not just with the company, but going on to college?
We have a couple of career chats. One for if you are graduating and want to get right into a company or go that route, or also a separate career chat of what colleges would be good to go to that we recommend, and how to go through all of that. There was something you said, I was like, so in our business perspective class in the college, they actually get to look at contracts and what is not a good contract.
Right.
And oftentimes we'll guide somebody, if somebody's offering you a second company contract and it's only $100 a week, that's probably not a pretty good deal. So we want to give you something that where maybe it's $300, something that you can actually, if you had a roommate, you could actually live on instead of having your parents pay for the next 2 years. And then maybe or maybe not, you would get into a company. So, but I should mention that in the career chat about, what's not a good situation. But we talk a lot about, I tell the ballet dancers that unless you are absolutely perfect, I mean the inches in it for like a big company like American Ballet Theater, don't even try, because they're not, regardless of what the most amazing dancer you are, they're not going to choose you. They have the pick of the world, and it's almost like they don't do this, but it's almost like they put a measuring tape, are you the perfect body? That's like the number one criteria. But and I also say, even if you are perfect, let's just say you have the perfect body. I have personally seen amazing dancers stand in B+ for 20 years. And, I asked them, what would you like to do? Do you want to dance, or do you want to stand in B+ in Swan Lake for 20 years? And most of them want to dance. So there are so many good companies out there now that do all of it, from Swan Lake to the most contemporary, which is now, I think, sort of the standard in classical ballet companies, which is we do Swan Lake, Giselle, all those things. And then we're doing, Yuri Killian and, Matt Zeck and, people like that. So, and that and those companies have fabulous dancers. So it's, so we really, what I ask them to do is look at your body, be realistic, look at the companies you're interested in, look at those dancers. Does your body look like those dancers? Does your dancing look like those dancers? Be realistic, because if you're not realistic, you're going to have your heart broken. So be realistic, come with a list of 5, companies you're interested in, go to your teacher of record, go to me, go to somebody that you trust and ask about that. And then, we can also say, did you think about this? Or did you think about that? Or maybe that wouldn't be a right company for you. And even yesterday I was telling a student, I that's a great company, but I heard that director is not nice. So, words on the street, so you can sort of guide, who wants to work for somebody who's mean, so, right? So we do try to, as much as we can, to sort of guide them in the right direction. And then in contemporary, and we ask them to do a cover letter. We give them a template of what is a good cover letter, what does a good resume look like, how to make a reel, a dance reel, and oftentimes faculty will help dancers create a reel so that they can not only go on site to auditions, but also send their reels out to companies where maybe they can't necessarily afford. Now, it's always better to go in person, but they can't necessarily afford to go to every place they want to. And oftentimes people will get a response back, please come and auditioning, we have a company class next week or next month or something. So, and then in the contemporary, I always ask them to please ask Miss Brenda Daniels or Kira Blazik, because, that is a really different route. And I'm going to let Brenda speak to that.
It would be very unusual for a high school graduate to audition for a contemporary company. You're expected to go to college as a contemporary student. In my 25 years here at this school, I can only remember 2 examples where students have gotten a job straight out of high school in contemporary. It's just very rare. But they get, like I said earlier, it skews older. They're considered very young, even as a new college graduate, to get a job in a company. A little different in ballet, although, many of our college ballet students have gotten jobs after 4 years of college here. So that is also changing a little bit in the dance world.
That never happened. By the time you were out of college, you were old and not hireable. But now, so many of them get a college degree and then get a job. In fact, just Erin Burt from she just graduated college and she just is now in Sarasota Ballet too. So, I always tell high school students, let's just say you decide you want to go right to a company. Do 1 college course a year so that by the time you are finished with your career or any career, you've got your BFA and or your undergrad, because waking up at 40 years old and going off the stage and suddenly having to go back to school is not fun, and this way also, they've got more tools in their toolbox for their artistry as well. So
many companies now have associations with local colleges or online programs, and they really encourage your dancers to do that, to piece by piece get their degree. There are also colleges that have programs that are associated with companies where a student can both get their degree and dance part-time with a regional company. University of Utah has an association with Ballet West, and there are Oklahoma with Oklahoma City Ballet. So there are colleges that mesh with companies and companies that mesh with colleges. So it's like that line is getting a little more blurry, which is good.
Yeah, it sounds like you're actually concerned with the whole human being, which is nice,
Yeah,
like the rest of their lives.
yeah, yeah. No, we want them to be fully realized human beings.
Do you recommend that they go like to that symposium you were just at in Boca Raton to see the different conservatories that, I mean, is that a good place to go to see a bunch at a time or what?
It's really an unusual college fair in that every rep from the schools that are there, and there's usually about 10 programs that rotates. Every year it's a little bit different, although we're always invited because the person who runs it is an alum of UNCSA. So we're always there. But it's unusual in that the students can take class with, they send the reps that are sent are faculty. So a lot of college fairs are just tables with brochures. That's not quite as insightful as being able to take an actual dance class with a college rep and ask them questions, and it goes on all weekend. So I think it's valuable. Yeah, I do think it's valuable.
Is it appropriate on college visits to ask to take a class, to visit a class, watch a class, to request that?
We allow.
We allow it. Not every school allows it. You just have to ask.
But it
You
is
just have to
appropriate to ask?
Yes.
Okay,
Can't hurt.
right.
Can't hurt.
That's what I think.
Exactly.
You mentioned that you do a college computer talk. What, every year you guys do that?
We do it every year, and it's already happened. It's always the first week of school. I announce it, I post it. So yeah, it's always the first school because that's when the schedule is a little bit lighter, and we can put in things like career chat, college chat, nutrition lecture. That pretty much is the only time of year we can shoehorn in little extra things like that, because once the full schedule starts, it's almost impossible to find a time where every student is available. So yes, it has already happened for this year. But students are, we encourage them to talk with their faculty or the dean once they either narrow down their choices or they have other questions. We're always available.
So process would be your temperance, but you should have an idea of places you might, and then help that way.
That's a good idea. We have a question on
Oh,
the line here.
How many of your current school students, ballet and contemporary, go on to then the undergraduate program in either ballet or contemporary? Are there very many, or do most people
Come back here.
come back here to go to college?
It's a handful every year. I would say maybe between 5 and 10 every year come back. It really depends on a lot of factors. It depends on how long they've been here in high school. Often in the program for the full high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, sure, coming back to college is a great idea because that's a long time in one place, and that might be a good time for them to have a whole different faculty and experience. If they've come as a new student as a 12th grader, it makes sense for them to come back because they can get their BFA in 3 years. We count that year of high school as a year of college in their dance courses. They have to finish all their college academics in 3 years, but they can graduate in 3 years, which is great. Some students who are North Carolinians, it's financially just a great deal to come here to college. So it just really depends on the student, but a healthy handful every year do come back.
Question: if a choreographer comes in to cast a contemporary ballet piece, are both ballet and contemporary students involved in the auditions? I'm so glad somebody asked that question. Because last week I was talking to a student, contemporary student, and she just plopped down in front of me. She says, I don't, you're my dean and I don't know you well enough, so I'm just going to talk with you. And I was like, this is great. So she said, I feel like the ballet is favored over the contemporary students. I said, so what makes you think that? And she said, well, when choreographers come in, like for example, last year, we had Azure Barton. When choreographers come in and it's a contemporary piece, ballet dancers get to audition as well. And then they get cast over contemporary dancers. And then we're left out in the cold. So it was a great question because I got to clarify that what we do is every winter and spring dance, we have 2 contemporary pieces and 2 ballet pieces, or 2 pieces for contemporary dancers and 2 pieces for ballet dancers. So in that particular performance she was talking about, we actually had 3 contemporary pieces and 1 ballet piece, which was why the ballet dancers got to audition for a choreographer that actually asked for both ballet and contemporary people to be in that audition. So
This choreographer who really, we were bringing her in as a contemporary ballet choreographer. That's her area of expertise. She works mainly with ballet companies. She ended up casting 90% of her dancers were contemporary majors and just a very few ballet students, because what she was looking for that piece, our contemporary students who were able to do that better. So it's interesting when we have outside people come in.
Yeah, I didn't know she actually has ballet dancers in her company. I mean, it's very loosey-goosey, I don't know if you all saw it, but it's like ragdoll. It was awesome, so beautiful. Anyway, so we always do that. So that was just to say that, that question was, if a contemporary ballet choreographer comes in and we only have 1 contemporary piece and 1 piece that's supposed to be both contemporary and ballet, yes, contemporary students who are on point will get to audition for that. But if we have 2 contemporary works for contemporary dancers and we have 1 classical dance for ballet dancers and 1 contemporary ballet piece, then only ballet dancers will get to audition for that. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
If your contemporary student didn't make the point class, how could they keep up their point work throughout this year? In order to maybe, because I know you had quite a few students who switched from the ballet program to, so, yeah, and then college students as well. So
Yeah.
how can they keep up their point work?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think for us, it's bandwidth. I mean, we have a point class given to the contemporary students who we feel are strong enough to do that point class. We don't actually have a beginner point or another opportunity to put on the schedule for people who are maybe not necessarily strong enough to be in that point class. So for us, it's bandwidth, not being able to have the opportunity or place in the schedule to have that. So it would really be up to, I guess, them to put on their point shoes and do some exercises. I mean, you can always sort of, I really can't speak to that. I don't know how to answer that question. Maybe Brenda does.
It's really not necessary for someone who's studying to be a contemporary dancer to do point. So the fact that we offer the class at all is kind of like a little extra. It's a little bonus. But it's not a requirement for students who want to be a contemporary dancer. No contemporary choreographer is going to ask them to get on point. that audition for that class is open to all of the students, and it has to be limited to 20 to 25 of the strongest students who are on point. So we wrestle with this every year is, do we need that class at all? We're thinking about in the spring, changing up our schedule a little bit so that some of the shorter ballet classes might be before contemporary technique rather than after, to do a floor bar, which we've introduced for our contemporary students this year, a new thing. That may eliminate the point class completely once we make that switch in the schedule. So this is something that we've gone back and forth about because it's not really necessary. We just offer it as an extra. And if the student really, really wants to do point more than what we are able to offer, they're either going to have to do it on their own, or when they're looking for another program as they leave here in college, that they would look for a program that does offer those classes to them.
Thank you. But, so if you have a contemporary ballet choreographer come, just those in that point class though, audition piece.
I've never even actually seen our contemporary students who take that point class have the ability to audition for a piece that's designated as a ballet piece.
Well, Susan, years ago, 4 years ago, Susan McCullough, who was the previous dean and then went on faculty, she did a piece. It was a Yuri Killian piece that was, I think it was a Yuri Killian. No, it was her own piece that she had on point. She had both ballet and contemporary dancers on point. But that was an anomaly.
And we did a piece last year called Kingdom that had point and non-point roles, and everybody got to audition for everything in that piece, not just the students who were in the point class, but other students who were auditioning. If they felt that they wanted to audition on point, they could. So it just depends on the piece.
So that next question was, I believe it was, the previous question? So it says, I know fall dance is for contemporary only. Are there an even number of contemporary and ballet pieces in both winter and spring dance concerts? Or are they primarily concerts for ballet? So I believe I
Two and
answered
two.
that question.
Even, totally.
It's even.
Steven.
Even Steven. Even Steven Center. Okay. Has the dance department considered hiring a faculty member that specializes in Gaga? I noticed SUNY and Juilliard have Gaga faculty, and this would this would add to the diversity of the UNCSA dance department.
First, explain what Gaga is, please. Most of the table doesn't seem to
It
know.
was created by a man named Ohad Naharin. He is the choreographer director of Bathsheba Dance Company in Israel. It is all the rage. Young, not everybody loves it. It's a wonderful. It's sort of improv in a way, and it's all the rage. People, especially the students, love Gaga. It's very complex, but in their contemporary, I'm going to let Brenda also speak about this, but in our contemporary department, we already have actually quite a very wide range of classical and modern into counter technique into release technique, which can already be challenging for a student to be able to grasp all those techniques. And what we really try to do is give them a solid, classically foundation, classically technique, so that they can go off and do these counter techniques and release techniques and actually be articulate. If we then added a Gaga, we'd be sort of like the Reader's Digest of college contemporary. We are a very serious program, and oftentimes now SUNY also is a very serious program, but I think if the range is too wide, would actually be detrimental to the students.
Is SUNY high school?
No, it's college.
Yeah, so
SUNY Purchase. So, and Juilliard, and SUNY is also much more, just contemporary, doesn't have a big ballet department. And the same with Juilliard. Juilliard's much more towards contemporary and contemporary ballet. So it really depends upon time and bandwidth and all of those things. So, but I'd like Brenda to sort of add.
And we have had Gaga here. We have guests. Actually, one of our high school alums, Bobby Jean Smith, left us to go to Juilliard, and a year into Juilliard, Ohad Naharin was a guest at Juilliard and just swept her up into Batsheva. So she never actually completed college, but became his muse, his star dancer, and danced with Batsheva Company for many years. Beautiful dancer. And she did some guest teaching for us a couple of years back. And we have had other guests come in and do some Gaga classes with our students. I don't actually know what goes on in a Gaga class because they paper over the windows. It's something that you have to do when you teach a Gaga class. There's no observers. The windows have to be covered. The mirrors have to be covered. It's a little cult-like.
just saying.
I tried actually very hard to get a Gaga piece a few years ago, and the negotiations were so hard, and I was still not settled after 6 months with the people that worked for Ohad in Israel that I finally gave up. I don't know how other college get them, but it was, it has to be 13 minutes and 22 seconds long, and every studio has to have the black, curtains. And I was like, we can do our best, but we only have 2 studios, and it was so complicated. I finally it was horrible. I just threw in the towel. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So we actually got another piece that day. I mean, it was horrible for me. It wasted so much of my time. So,
And the fact that Bobby Jean Smith had gone through our program with the traditional techniques that we offer and was made a star in this Gaga technique shows that base, that classical base, when you're studying that allows you to do anything. And we really believe it strongly in that that classical base that we offer our students, the foundation, both in ballet and contemporary, that, trends come and go. Gaga may prove to be more than a trend. It may become a stream of actual training. But right now, the bandwidth, we don't have an open position on our faculty. And when we do, we might consider hiring a Gaga person. But mainly when we have a position open, what we look for first is, are they a good teacher? That's even more important in contemporary, really, than what kind of technique they teach. Because Graham is important, and Horton is important, and Cunningham is important, and Lamone is important, and Release is important, and Gaga is important. There's so many different techniques that are important, but the most important thing is, are they a good teacher? So
you brought up Juilliard earlier and it being primarily looked at as a contemporary program. So when we were looking at colleges, and there are varying lists, especially out this time of year, that have the top 10, the top recommended, and we are having a hard time weighing and or convincing our dancer that should look at some programs. Juilliard is a good example where they have ballet. How do you weigh if there is enough ballet for a ballet student when they offer both? Is there something we should specifically be looking for?
well, I would go and look at it and look at the program and see, what it is and what the level of the ballet.
But they shouldn't discount the fact that, they're on the ballet list. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, Juilliard is always on that list. They're in top 5 of everybody's list. But a
They don't-
ballet
They do not
student.
produce ballet dancers
Okay.
at Juilliard. The people leaving
Right.
Juilliard get jobs in contemporary companies.
Okay.
And their focus really is on strong, classically trained. They love dancers that have a lot of ballet technique.
Right.
But they are not training ballet dancers.
I mean, there are other schools like that as well. That was just an example that I recall. So we really, if they are producing contemporary, it's probably not for our ballet students.
If your ballet student is really hoping to get a job in a ballet company once they leave
Right.
college, there are probably better programs where they can keep up with their classical partnering and more point and
Right.
variations and those kind of things. I don't think are the focus of Juilliard. Juilliard has a lot of focus on contemporary techniques. They do take ballet day, but the kind of rep that they do is very heavy contemporary and a lot of composition, creative process, those kind of courses as well. So it really is, I don't think it's geared specifically toward students that want to join a ballet company once they leave college, the way Butler or Indiana or U of U or at Purchase, you can be a ballet major or a contemporary major. At Juilliard, you're just a dance major.
Right.
It's not split,
Okay.
just one thing.
Could you give us a list of the colleges that you would be geared, thinking gear-wise, either? I have a student, she's a junior, and she's adamant she's going to be in a ballet company. She doesn't even want to look at colleges. And my husband and I are really, really struggling to even get her to acknowledge that college is kind of a really good thing to be doing. And and I'd appreciate, a list that says, you can do both. You can still look at these colleges to even get her on that page and be going down that route.
I mean, that's what we do at the college chat.
I appreciate that, but I feel like
We
for
can
us,
talk about that in the career chat.
Yeah.
I feel like it needs to be from all angles. While you're saying it here, I feel like we need to be on the same page at home, and it would help just to have that information because, she looks at my husband and I like we don't know what we're talking about. And
Her parents.
yeah, I appreciate that. And it's just, it would be helpful because I just don't even know where to begin the gentle push in that direction.
Well, I mean, as we said before, so many dancers are getting jobs right out of college. Ballet dancers.
Okay.
And, to have that behind you is so important. And, what's another 4 years of training while you're getting a degree? I mean, if you're going to get a job, why would you get a degree first?
But there is kind of a short list of colleges that focus more on ballet. It's a shorter list than colleges that have contemporary programs. It's just more traditional across the country, historical programs, a lot more. You can get a degree in contemporary, but there's a significant list of colleges, and we went through all of them at the college chat. Jared Reddick, our assistant dean for ballet, knows what all those colleges are that have really strong ballet programs. So I would recommend that a student make an appointment to talk with Jared. Maybe if I have a free minute, it's hard for me, but I could possibly pull together a list of those colleges, just a list of those that traditionally have stronger focus in ballet. They're known for their ballet programs. A lot of them are at the Boca College Fair that I just got back from because that was started through a ballet school. So it was weighted more heavily toward those programs that do concentrate on ballet. I can just write down a list of those, type it up, and post it upstairs by the schedule.
Okay.
Would that be helpful?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could add just a bit to maybe help Brenda with that.
Too much?
We have a list, we keep a list of every conservatory where seniors go. And so we have that for dance, and there's probably 45 schools on it. But what we don't know, as well as dance faculties, is which ones are currently top ballet, top contemporary. But so maybe I could share that list with Brenda, Susan, and they could help narrow it down to, or even add to it.
That's some insight from the inside would help, because just like I said, I can Google a list and we get lots of things that, we can read articles on, but I'm just telling you, like, for example, when I read the Juilliard one, they're selling me on ballet.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really get a clear picture just reading those descriptions. And some of the other schools, they're like, oh yeah, we have this great ballet program.
Right.
But do you really? You don't know.
Right.
So that's,
Right, to have
I think
your-
that's what we're saying is that,
I mean, my very top recommendation besides us is the University of Utah. And the reason why is because you can double major. They have, their ballet teachers are as strong as ours. They have connections with Ballet West, so they have a joint program. And so there's just so many good things about that university. Plus, it's like 30,000 students, so you get sort of a wider picture of what life really is like. But that and the dancers that I see in their year-round program and their summer program are very strong, good ballet dancers that could get jobs. So I love that. I keep telling Brenda, please send your daughter, because her daughter does not want to go to college. She wants to get away from her mom so she can have autonomy. And like, please go to Indiana University. To University of Utah. Now, Indiana's also really strong. They're more Balanchine, and they have beautiful faculty. Kira Nichols, who was a ballerina with New York City Ballet, Carla Corbs, who was a ballerina with Pacific Northwest Ballet.
And Carla Corbs, I just saw her at the Boca College Fair representing Indiana, and she's got a cute little baby bump, but she taught a beautiful class. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty much the short list. Butler, Indiana, U of U, Utah. University of Oklahoma has a historic ballet program. That's where Ilya came from right before
I
he came to
stole one of
us.
our faculty
I know.
members from
And they resent
the
it.
guy there.
I heard all about that at the Convo Fair.
Good for you. Don't get into a war with me.
And Purchase College also, they do place their ballet graduates into ballet companies. It's a strong program.
Now,
was the
Susan,
last one?
when you say double major, you mean in the arts? I mean, I know
No.
you can double major, get a
You can-
BFA in
You can
dance.
study to be a doctor
How
and
excellent
a
is that?
dancer. Which, if you have the grit, go and do that.
Yeah.
Because it is so competitive out there in the dance worlds. And it is a labor of love. It is not money-driven art form. And, you have to feel like this is your calling, regardless of whether or not you have to have 5 roommates to scare you. Regardless of whether or not you have to live, with a lesser paycheck, but then if let's just say you want to double major and whatever it is, you've got that to fall back on. And you can say, I'm going to do this for 10 years. I'm going to dance for 10 years, but actually I'm going to think about what I'm going to do after that. And I can't say enough how behind that I am. I really think if you have the energy and the brain power to do that, that's what I think you should do.
And I did talk to a lot of the reps at these various places about double majoring. I said, is it realistic for the dancers, getting a BFA, which is very studio heavy, performance heavy? And they said, it's hard. They didn't say it's easy. They said it often involves taking courses over the summer and just putting in a lot of hours. Sometimes it takes 5 years to get the double major. It just depends on the student.
Yeah, and actually, I was teaching at the University of Utah last November and then taught in the summer. And I saw 10 of them who were in the winter program. I said, "What are you doing here?" Academics, so they stay there to get their double major degree.
So I was understanding in reading about Oklahoma that your junior year, they make you pick a track, either performance, education, dance education, or management.
Oh, wow.
That's what it said
That's
on their
news.
website.
Okay. Is that
Well-
Oklahoma City University or there's two different ones?
I mean, every
It's-
school is
I
different.
think it's OU.
Yeah.
Oklahoma
Some
University of
schools,
Oklahoma.
you can study ballet, jazz, and modern, all three. Some, as you get through the program, they do start to track you. Is it looking like you have a significant performing career ahead of you or not?
Mhm.
Maybe they do try to guide you more into pedagogy or arts management, because also students change as they start to grow up. Are they still interested in that dream that they had when they were 3?
Or what
And-
you
and they
had an
change,
injury
so,
or something.
yeah.
Right.
The next question, once Nutcracker and repertory begin, when are rehearsals? And do you have any thoughts on how to manage auditions for college programs with minimal disruption to rehearsals for any upcoming performances? And I'm going to let Brenda handle this because she does all of the schedules.
Okay. So once Nutcracker begins, and I'll take out repertory first. So if a student is not cast in Nutcracker, their repertory classes are Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons. And that's when they work on their piece during intensive arts. They work on it every day. It starts ramping up for their performance. Nutcracker, once it's kind of set and cast, it depends on what their role is, how many times a week it's going to rehearse. Big corps de ballet role, like the flowers or the snow scene, that rehearses maybe 3 times a week. It's a little more intense than if maybe they are doing a soldier, that might be twice a week. It really depends on the role. The gentlemen often are in many, many different roles, and they could be working almost every day on Nutcracker. So the faculty are there a lot for Nutcracker. Rehearsals run every day of the week and on Saturdays. But students, we try not to schedule them every night of the week. We know they have homework and other things. It does start ramping up more as it gets closer to Nutcracker time. But again, I can't answer that specifically. Once the student knows what role they're in and they see the rehearsal schedule, then they'll know.
And the evening rehearsals are from 7:15 to 9:15. There was one more question.
Oh, there was another question.
Oh,
sorry.
It was about college auditions.
Oh, the disruption for college auditions, yes. So students are allowed, I know for academics as well, they're allowed a certain number of kind of free get out of jail card days that they can miss without it affecting a grade. It's the same in the School of Dance. I think it's maybe 6 per semester. So the students just, obviously they can't audition at 20 different places. I think some places you can send a video audition, but we do make accommodations for students that need to leave to audition. And again, depending on if they know they're in something or they want to be in something, just to kind of plan that audition so it's not going to take them out for an extended period of time all at once. I think that it would be better to do a weekend here and a weekend there rather than make a 2-week audition tour where you're out of school that long. That probably would not work for our schedule.
Follow up on that. Is it safe to say, because I'm planning college visits and auditions, it seems like most of the auditions, the first round is September, October for the college programs. Safe to say if we get all of that sort of done by November 1, we're in the clear for interfering with Nutcracker?
Well, it would interfere with rehearsals, but it wouldn't interfere with the performances, which interfering with the performances is really, we really can't kind of accommodate that. But rehearsals, students say, I have to leave, I have an audition. As long as they get their form in a timely fashion,
2 weeks.
the director would know that they would just have to work around that student. And because we do multiple casts of Nutcracker, their cover can kind of cover them while they're gone.
But I think that you said the cast lists for Nutcracker are usually right before Thanksgiving. So, but rehearsals would be happening before. I
Yeah,
see.
starting
Okay,
next week,
That
actually.
clears that. Yes,
Yeah.
I have to cancel a tour. We're good. Okay.
Right, we
now I
know
understand
who's
that.
in it and what parts they have before Thanksgiving. What we don't know before Thanksgiving is what specific show.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
And when are the Prairie students cast for winter dance? Is there anything that they need to worry about for this fall as far as?
Yeah, we're actually doing one audition this fall for Winter Dance. Our Graham guru, Maurizio Nardi, is going to do his audition for Maple Leaf Rag, which is a wonderful Graham piece for Winter Dance. He's going to be doing that in early November, in the middle of a week. So a lot of auditions are toward like a Friday or Saturday. So I think that most students would be safe for that audition. It's the first week of November.
Are scholarships available for out-of-state high school students? Yes, and if so, how does a student qualify for a scholarship? And Brenda, I'd like for her to.
Yes, I oversee all the scholarshiping for the School of Dance in consultation with the dean and the faculty. So what happens, what's the process is in March, I find out how much money I have to work with from the financial aid office. They send me a list of all of our scholarship funds, and it comes from a number of different sources. Some of the money we raise ourselves through the Nutcracker. That's our biggest pot of money is what we raise ourselves. We do a festival of dance every February where students come in from across the state. They pay a small fee to take class with our faculty all weekend and see Winter Dance. That is a scholarship fundraiser for us. And then we have some endowed scholarships where donors have given an amount of money that spins off some interest. And those are called our named scholarships that are usually named after the donor or the designee. So we have a number of different pots of money that we have to work with. I do an initial Rubik's Cube of what students need help and what the scholarship is specifically for. Often the named scholarships have to go to a ballet student. It's designated, or it goes to a contemporary student, or it goes to somebody whose parents have worked at a specific, some of them can get so granular with the kind of student that they want to focus on. So I do an initial run of pairing scholarship with student. And then I run that all by the faculty for their approval. I factor in students who have come to me saying, I need some help to come back next year. Those students, some of the scholarships are merit only, some are need and merit, some are need only. The need-based only, I need to hear from financial aid that the parents have submitted the FAFSA form. So high school as well. In order to get need-based aid, the FAFSA has to be submitted. So it really is a puzzle that I do my best to kind of patch together. Then the dean and faculty go down the list, any changes they want to make, any students they want to add. But I am very porous. This is faculty mentioning a student that they would like specifically to be helped. Parents let me know we need some extra help. Is there any merit scholarship available? Students coming to me. And then we have to balance all that out against new students that we're trying to recruit. The gentlemen, especially.
Because usually
Helped.
Yeah.
It's
a lot
a
of
thing.
other colleges can just give all the males full rides. So we were in
order to get males, which we
in
need
competition
in order
with
to run the school, we need males. So it's a complex formulation, but we do the best we can to help as many students as we possibly can.
So how do you decide what dance options will be offered for the 2-week arts intensives in December? I mean, oftentimes the faculty will suggest something, or somebody might say, oh, I think we should do a class, or we have one man who does, I can't pronounce his name, Ronco. Who does a ballroom, and then it changes, it varies depending upon who's available, how much funding we have. You know, we're looking at our overall budget. We've had to sort of tighten the belts the last few years due to endowments being sort of recalibrated as far as spin out. And so it really just, it's really not just done by one person and all of that. So we try to make everybody sort of involved in how that goes. And then also how much funding do we have?
We're open to student suggestions. We've taken student suggestions in the past for guests that they would like to see, or types of special classes they would like to see during intensive arts. So it's people approach us, we approach people, faculty suggestions, student suggestions. We try to keep some things the same from year to year when somebody's really successful, like our Ronco, who does his ballroom magic every year. And then we also change it up every year. And this year we have some Twyla Tharp people coming who are fantastic guests. We've had them before in other capacities, never during intensive arts. We have Cunningham specials that we run. We've done musical theater. We've done voice work. You name it, we've done it. And we try to keep it always fresh during intensive arts. And the intensive arts, those specials are offered to the students who are not in Nutcracker, because pretty much the Nutcracker people, that's all they're doing during intensive arts, because that's when the performances are. So they're pretty much living at the Stevens Center for all of intensive arts. But those ballet students not in Nutcracker and all contemporary students are open to these intensive arts special guests and classes that we have.
So what are the visions and goals of the UNCSA Dance Department for the next 5 years? We don't have any. Well, okay.
It's a big thing.
That's a big question. We just implemented a choreographic institute a year ago in the summer. And that has brought enormous amount of awareness to the school for the summer intensives. This past year we had, and it was really for up and coming choreographers, giving them an opportunity, and they get 5 weeks on campus. They get a housing stipend, they get they get a stipend, $300 a week stipend, they get free housing, food, and they get to cast their dancers and work for 5 weeks with a performance at the end of the 5-week summer intensive. They also get mentored by Helen Pickett. They get classes on music, like, for example, taking a piece of Bach and stretching it out and making it unrecognizable, so it becomes more contemporary. So part of that also includes we did this not this past year, but the year before, is bringing 8 studio company members from around the country. We had 4 ABT studio company and 4 Houston Ballet work together with 2 mid-career choreographers. And so that choreographer, and it's really to bring up contemporary ballet, because there are not that many contemporary opportunities for contemporary and ballet to work to get, like, bring a new expression of contemporary ballet. So it's really about focusing on that. And that's also chosen through video submission. The choreographers are chosen through video submission. for that as well as for the development residency. And so I'm trying to fundraise. I want to create a $1 million endowment because part of that Choreographic Institute pays for itself, but part of it doesn't. And I also want to increase it to bring projection and motion capture and things like that, like all these things that a choreographer would want as far as their production value, and to just give them this just intense education while they're here for 5 weeks. So I'm working on that this year. I'm scheming with Julianne to create a gala to fundraise for that. So that's kind of a big thing. The other thing is the community school, which has been talked about for a long time. The preparatory school on our campus in the dance department has about 100 students right now, 88 children, and then some adults, and then some babies. And so we just hired a new preparatory director. Her name is Susan Brooker. She is an ABT examiner. She is fully trained in American Ballet Theatre curriculum and Cicchetti, and is probably one of the best teachers I've ever seen, like ever. And when I found out she was available and wanted the job, I couldn't talk for the rest of the day. And so she's here now. I've been, Matthew and Alana, who were the directors before, did a fantastic job in raising awareness and in bringing more students to the school. And so she inherited a great school. Now that was 4 years ago. Before 4 years ago, it was a free school, and it just wasn't able to sustain itself as far as that previous director was fundraising for her salary, and it was not a good situation. And if classes didn't have enough teachers or whatever, they were canceled, the kids were mixed together. It was a mess. So we made it tuition-based, and it's doing really super well. And so I'm on the provost's hem of his pants like, a dog. I won't let go because I want to move the school off campus. And one of the biggest reasons is because when you're 13 years old and you don't get into UNCSA, we just go, well, there's the door. You're 13 and we have no place for you. I want students, regardless of whether or not they get into UNCSA, to have fantastic training until they finish their high school, and then if they want to take the adult classes, with performance opportunities, and I want to expand that out into the community. I also want to expand it out into other kinds of classes, contemporary classes, let's just say jazz or African or hip hop or things like that. And I want that to be out in the community. Plus, there are other schools on campus that can also have their own sort of preparatory programs. There's Acting Out, and then there's a community music school. And so the dream is to get the whole thing off campus into one place. And but right now, the school that has the most money coming in is the preparatory school. And so, but we can't grow. We can't grow because there's not enough studio space, and so it's sort of a catch-22. If we had the space, we'd be able to grow the money to actually move off campus. So anyway, so why I've gotten on the edge of the provost's hem on his pants is because I want the gym, the basketball courts, when drama moves out of there, and just to grow the preparatory school, just to grow it, because most ballet schools or dance schools are their bread and butter is with the babies.
and we have no space and no place for parents to drop their children off, and it's a mess. So I'm really on that. And then also we have curricular changes going, which have been through a series of several years of exit interviews, students talking about what their needs are of today. We're really trying to keep the needs of what students need today in mind, creating a curriculum. And so those changes are, we're increasing our business perspectives class to go into a whole year of business so that they have just more opportunity to, or just more behind them. And giving the repertory classes who are not on the main, let's say doing the Nutcracker or Winter and Spring Dance, but having that increase in hours of rehearsal so that they have just a deeper, stronger experience, and just little small changes that actually are make it a better school for our students. What are the other curricular changes?
The curriculum changes mostly affect college students.
Yes, of course.
I'm just going to have to go teach. I'm already late for my class. So there were two questions that came in that I will briefly answer, and then I'm gonna shuffle off to Buffalo. One question was if contemporary students have a repertory showing that's coming up. The contemporary students who are not first years will be involved in the fall dance concert, which is the 25th through the 29th of September. After that, all contemporary students are cast in our Emerging Choreographers concert, which is our college seniors are required to make a group piece using all the underclassmen. And that is going to be at the Haynesbrand Theater this year. So that's going to be off campus. It's going to be very exciting. That concert, open to the public, of course, is the 13th through the 17th of November. And then if a student is a first year is in that foundational repertory class that's going on all fall, and in addition, they may be in another piece that's created during intensive arts. Those shows, which are open to the public, no tickets. We don't do tickets at our Dance in DeMille, but that will be on the last day of intensive arts on December 14th at 12:30 and 2:30. The next question I will answer briefly is if we host any colleges to do their auditions here on campus. We're working on getting London Contemporary, which has a wonderful college program. Some students are very interested to study in Europe. And of course, that can be prohibitively expensive to even go audition. So we're working on that to bring in an audition for London this year. We have had Cornish College from Seattle come, but the attendance was so poor at the audition that they stopped coming. There's nothing I can really do to control that. We can continue to ask other college programs to put us on their tour. Many schools, colleges only audition on their own campus, or they do New York, Chicago, LA. And it would be unusual for them to come to a high school, but not out of the question. And we've gotten more contemporary summer programs to come audition here because we have so many ballet programs that audition here for their summer school that we've added to that. We now have a good, healthy handful of contemporary programs auditioning here, but we can reach out to some of those more competitive colleges just to see if they would add us to their tour or consider coming just here to do an audition.
Yeah, especially the ones that you're so enthused about. I mean, it's a win-win.
It is a win-win.
I've got to go.
Go teach.
I'm gonna go teach.
Isn't this the year where all of the arts departments come together for performance?
It's the mass.
Yes.
Mass, okay.
Yeah, Bernstein's Mass. I mean, we don't call that an all-school thing anymore because what used to happen was that it would be on top of what our programs were, and it was everybody was overstressed. So
we focus on a school. And so this year, Bernstein's Mass has music, drama, and dance students in it. And that is the 28th and 29th, I believe, of September.
The dance will have a piece.
Dance will be in Bernstein's Mass, choreographed by actually dance alum Kelly Maxner, who teaches in the dance. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, it's tiny, but this.
How do you grade dance classes, and will we see grades through the year on Canvas?
We grade dance classes. This is so interesting because, okay. When I first got here, a very, very good dancer who didn't have feet that were long enough got a bad grade. And then she wanted to go to Princeton and couldn't because her grade point average went down. Oh, jeez. So I stopped that. And I said, grading is based off of, are you a good student? Are you present? Are you working? Are you improving? Are you working to the best of your ability? And are you putting your energy into it? Then you're going to get a really good grade, regardless of what inches your feet are. We also, we have a new attendance policy, which is, and we really had to implement this because particularly is weird, college contemporary students were skipping a lot of classes before. So we put in a pretty stringent attendance policy, which is if you miss more than 5 classes, your grade starts to go down with every subsequent class that you miss. So, and we've decided this year, they're going to get a warning letter. And after that, we just figure they're adults. So, but it's a little bit less, it's a little bit different in high school because parents are informed, we're much more hands-on with that with parents. You get with high school parents, you get a report in the middle of the year, right? Every year, twice a year actually, you get what's it called?
Semester.
Yeah, progress report in the middle of the semester and then at the end of the school year. That is not a grade, but what you will get, you do get graded at the end of the fall semester, right? And then you get graded at the end of, but I don't know if that's in Canvas, Corey. I don't work with Canvas.
I don't think it was.
Yeah.
It's generally you give a.
It's in Easy Arts, so it's.
And you would see that with all of your academic grades too.
Yeah. So, so you get that, and then you get your progress reports. And we tried to write very extensive progress reports. I don't know if you've gotten the opportunity to see them, but when I first got here, the progress report said, "Keep up the good work!" ! And then a signature. Now it's very comprehensive. We try so that the student really knows what they need to work on, and also the parent knows what the student needs to work on. And so we try. And if it's not clear, please don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah.
Along those same lines, do you are conferences part of the plan, or is it more as needed?
It is part of the plan. So the teacher of record does meet with the student after the progress reports and also after juries. So, and our juries, and I told the students, stop being freaked out about juries, for God's sakes. Juries are so that the whole faculty can see each student and to be able to give that teacher of record maybe different insights. which helps the teacher of record then create a more comprehensive review for the student so that the student is really hearing from the whole faculty about what's working, what they could improve on, and things like that. So we try as much as we can. Of course, the student can always, go and make an appointment with their teacher and ask about progress. Sometimes they'll even come to me and they'll ask me, and I'll go and watch them and see how it's going. So we try to be as hands-on as possible. And I encourage you, if you ever hear your child say, "I don't get enough corrections," please let us know. We have very large classes, and sometimes, a student will feel overlooked for a couple of weeks or whatever. So we really do want students to be, engaged, corrected, feel like we take care of them. And if you hear otherwise, please let us know. And I also tell students, let me know, because that's what I'm here for.
So we're right at noon. Maybe this is our last question.
Could there be a date in the spring that parents could observe dance classes? Huh. I don't see why not. I don't see why not. So that's a good idea.
Is that still a part of Parents Weekend?
Yeah, can't we
That's
observe
fall.
during Parents Weekend?
That's
Yeah,
fall.
I know it's
Fall.
rehearsals. Yeah. It's more rehearsals, right? We don't really have, the class it's usually mixed of all the students in one class. So it's not like the different levels. But yeah, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that.
We get invited at fall break. We observed a contemporary class and we observed a ballet class, and the teachers invited through the students, the parents during Parents Weekend in the fall.
Oh, so you got to, but weren't they all mixed together, all the levels?
It was a class.
Yeah,
We went to
But
class.
that's fall, that specific ask was for
Just for
spring.
Yeah,
and
but
I
they may
think
not
that's-
know that you can do that in the fall.
Yeah. I think in the spring, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that.
That'd be
Right.
awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See how they grow.
Yeah.
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 Which brings us to why the coffee talk is such a great thing, because you get to ask these questions. And there are deans who
Exactly.
maybe haven't thought about that. So
Yeah,
thank
I never
you.
thought about that in the spring. So.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
We appreciate it.